Does it really matter if it's an underground oil tank? I mean, you can just have it taken out, the buyer can after they move in, right?
It's not that simple. So
No?
no, unfortunately not. So oil tanks are a huge part of the buyer's due diligence. What the buyers going to want to do for their inspections is if they don't know if there's a tank underground or not, they're going to want to do a tank sweep to make sure there is nothing underground.
But what if the seller says there isn't one?
I would not trust the seller, and I would not trust the seller. I would trust only the people that the buyer hires and their underground tank sweep technician, because if there is a tank underground and it is leaking, we have seen cleanups cost in the six figures. What has to happen is at that point, when there's a leaking oil tank, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection gets involved, and the property is not deemed clean until the DEP sends a letter of no further action to the homeowner saying that the cleanup has been taken care of per their standards, and it could be a very, very costly endeavor.
Okay, so is it always on the seller to clean it up or remove the tank?
So it's whoever's once the DEP is notified, it's the property owner that is responsible. So if that buyer was to take possession and close, it becomes the buyer's responsibility. That's why we want to make sure that there's no underground tanks when the buyer closes, because that is going to be an issue that they're going to have in the future. We have seen, again, it's another negotiation. Most of the time, it is the seller that is remediating the underground oil tank. In some, bank-owned properties or properties that are not in the greatest repair, buyers are getting a discount and taking that responsibility on post-closing. But that's not typically done because the amount of contamination is not really known at that point.
Okay, so really we're looking at $100,000 plus potentially.
Potentially, and if it hits groundwater, it's a very expensive endeavor. If it does hit groundwater, a lot of times the seller's insurance company gets involved. But if it doesn't, then that oil plume from a leaking underground tank, all that dirt and soil that has to come out is going to be the responsibility of the homeowner. So it is very important for the buyer to make sure they do a tank sweep. And also, we have seen decommissioned oil tanks that have been backfilled, opened up, cleaned out, backfilled with sand, and approved by the town. We have seen contamination under those as well. So,
Even though they say that the town had said that it was okay, it's no longer okay.
correct. So what we were seeing in the industry is that even if it's been approved, a tank stays underground and backfilled with sand, all buyers want those tanks out to make sure there's no contamination underneath.
Wow, that sounds scary.
It is.
Thanks, Kevin.
Anytime.